But so there I am, I'm reading a philosophy book that's all about, you know, your behavior toward others and all this stuff. And I see this man smelling a strange woman's hair and getting off on it. It's not just like he's sitting behind her and a breeze, the smell of her hair wafts into his nose and he's reminded of a past wife. It's nothing romantic like that. No, this man, he is pulling her hair toward him and he's almost like jizzing as he's smelling her hair. Like his body and his face are doing the expressions that you make when you jizz. What's going on? What is going on? Welcome back to another episode of The Pupil's Life, episode 67. It's hard to keep track. When you're scheduling things in advance. It's hard to know what is what. I don't know how really, really successful people do it. But what is up, people? Today is the no cursing episode. So if you spot me cursing, then message me and I'll send you some kind of gift or some kind of giveaway or something, because I might curse and not even realize it. Right. It's mainly the F word that I need to. it's mainly the F word that I'm trying to. And I'm not talking about the homophobic slur. I'm talking about the other F word, the one you yell at your girlfriend when you're just, when she's been doing some shit. And by the way, shit is also that's not a curse word. I just maybe all right, I'm starting again. I'm starting now. This is all right, people. This is welcome to the Pupil's Life, episode 67. This is the no cursing episode. And I was going to try to say that it was also going to be the no dude episode, but that would be too hard, So, yeah. How is everyone doing? By the time this episode comes out, you may or may not know who the president of the United States is. I just read this thing that my friend, who is very into politics now, sent me. And, but before I get into that, how are you doing? You celebrated Halloween. You got the monster out of your system. And what's next? Is it just survive until the next holiday, Thanksgiving? Let's just suppress our emotions until for one more month, and we'll get to the next holiday. Just get to the next holiday, and then the next one after that, and then the next one after that. It doesn't matter if you hate your life. It doesn't matter if you despise everyone in it. Just get to the next holiday. just get to the next holiday, you know. Um, but but yeah, so you've celebrated the celebration, the October celebration, um, and now you're waiting for Thanksgiving, and maybe it'll come, maybe it won't. You know, maybe like Terrence Doyle or whatever his name was, you will be you'll be shot by a strange man because you tried to defend someone. And maybe you'll read that news article. This is a recent Austin shooting that happened, in case you don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe you will read that news article and you'll say, you see, that's why you shouldn't say anything. That's why you need to keep to yourself at all times, because violence should be met with nothing. Violence should just be allowed to implode. They'll realize that what they're doing is wrong. Right after they wipe out everyone. That's what I like about Tim Kennedy. You know, I don't know much about his history. He was in MMA fighting for a while, but there's just something like, you know, like if Tim Kennedy was my dad, that's the kind of dad that you want to have. You know, that's the kind of dad that you want to be. Is just the kind of dad that knows he can protect his family, and because he knows that, he's not constantly putting them in risky situations. And by that I mean, you know, getting in an argument at a sporting event with your two kids next to you. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, maybe you'll read that article about the man that got shot in Austin, and you'll think, dude, this shirt is suffocating me. It's like Lycra or something. I don't know why they make sports uniforms out of this material. Ugh. And furthermore, I don't know why I wore this. Why am I going to wear an uncomfortable shirt for my podcast? Because that's the way we do it. Yeah, maybe you read that article and you think, you know, that it's better to not say anything just because the man was killed. And I'm not saying that I read it and I think, oh, good for him. He spoke up and then he got killed. But I do think about, what is the impact of not speaking up? What is the impact of, you know, when that Asian guy, I think it was an Asian guy, got pulled out of the airplane because of something he was doing. I don't even remember what it was. But he got I think they banged his head against one of the armrests and maybe even knocked him unconscious. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I just know that it was, everyone on the plane was just like not moving, not saying anything. And there was armed officers that were like pulling the guy, you know, and they slammed his head against something accidentally, right? Is the term they probably used. And nobody's saying anything, you know? Because what happens if you say something? Oh, well, they're armed officers. What if they do the same to me? Well, what if everyone around you does the same thing that you did and get up and do something about it? Are they going to murder everybody on the airplane? Are they going to bang everyone? It's 150 to 2, you know? But people just let civilians get treated like prisoners almost, and it's hard to watch, man. it's hard to watch, like, and I'm not saying that I know that I would act different. I'm just saying I hope that if I'm ever in that situation, that I would act differently because, like the police officers at the George Floyd scene, there was one guy on George's neck, and everyone else is just standing there. Like, all right, I'm gonna pretend that this isn't happening because this guy is my superior, and so if I do something, that might put my job at risk. So you're valuing your job over someone else's life. And then there's people filming it. And people this is on the street. There's cars probably driving by. And you just think, what if we were all a little bit more confident and a little bit more selfless, right? I actually have been in situations, not like the George Floyd thing or the airplane thing necessarily, but situations where I was the one that spoke up. Like I was on the bus one day, and this was a couple years ago, and I'm sitting 2 seats behind this woman who is has got her headphones in, right? So she's unaware of her surroundings. She's reading a book and listening to something. So she might as well be in the simulation. And there's a guy between us, in the seat between us, there's a guy, and he's sort of like pulling like loose strands of her hair. He's sort of pulling them gently so that she won't notice and smelling them. This guy is smelling her hair. And I guess because it was so long or because of the way that it was done that day, she didn't feel it, and so, or maybe she did and she was afraid to do something about it. I don't know. But so there I am, I'm reading a philosophy book that's all about, your behavior toward others and all this stuff. And I see this man smelling a strange woman's hair and getting off on it. It's not just like he's sitting behind her and a breeze, the smell of her hair wafts into his nose and he's reminded of a past wife. It's nothing romantic like that. No, this man, he is pulling her hair toward him, and he's almost like jizzing as he's smelling her hair. Like his body and his face are doing the expressions that you make when you jizz. He's like smelling her hair. He's like doing that, like a rat, like a hungry rat. And it's just, I had a choice. I had a choice to ignore what was happening. Odds are this woman will be fine. She's just, if she even notices, right, she'll get upset and then she'll be a little bit more paranoid. But she'll move on, right? But then I thought, what if she doesn't? What if this guy gets off the bus and he follows her? What if I get off the bus before them and then, he follows her home and sexually assaults her? Which isn't to say that you need to go worst case scenario to act or to speak up, but I was just thinking, this isn't how I would want to be treated. And this isn't how I want people around me to be treated. Strangers or foes, or friends or foes. I don't accept this kind of behavior. And so, I also had the wherewithal to know, like, all right, I'm not the person that should start off trying to solve the situation, right? It should be whoever the authority figure is on the bus, they should take the first action. So I get the bus driver and I tell the bus driver, even though, I mean, technically I'm the one taking action, I don't want to intervene. The authority should be the one to intervene, and the civilians should be the ones that sort of, I don't want to say police the authority behavior, but sort of keep the police behavior in check, or the authority in, not the police, keep the authority behavior in check. So, I get the bus driver, and the bus driver comes up and says, you need to stop doing that, what you're doing. And the woman doesn't take her headphones off. Right. And she doesn't even hear any of what is going on. She just sees that they're talking to somebody behind her, and she assumes nothing. She goes back to her book, goes back to listening to her music. Now, a couple things. If the authority figure, like if the bus driver comes up and, starts strangling the guy and beating his head into the wall or something, then I'm not going to allow that to happen, and then we become the authority figures. And then we're supposed to step in. Luckily, that didn't happen. So, all right, the bus driver did their part, goes back to driving, and the guy that they talked to doesn't move. And so they are, and now he knows that I'm the one that ratted on him, right? But I stick to my guns, and this guy continues to smell the woman's hair. And at that point, I'm just like, all right, it's the girl's fault, If she's gonna just walk around like a zombie, then sometimes you got to be treated like one, I did what I thought was right, and then at a certain point, it's like, all right, well, I'm also not this woman's parent. I'll throw some breadcrumbs, but I'm not going to force them. I'm not going to force feed you bimbo bread if you don't like it. And so you just have to, nothing happened to me, but I did what I thought was right. And then, I don't have to feel like a scumbag, just like, ugh, I let that guy just like, almost like molest somebody in front of me, and I was okay with that. Nah, dude. And right now is the most important time to know that about yourself, and to be more aware of that, and to be just more, just help thy neighbor, right? I don't know. I just think that that's, if one person is being bothered and one person decides to help, then that ratio gets us going. 1-to-1 fills. I don't have a catchy phrase for that, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, man. But so anyway, my friend, who, by the way, a few years ago used to like not care about politics at all, and is now maybe the person in my life that is most consumed by politics. And I don't know if that is because he is, what he's avoiding. I can make assumptions and I can guess like, okay, well, maybe this or that, but now he's like every other message he sends me is something politically based or in reference to politics. And so he sent me this from americanthinker.com that says, post-election 2022 studies say all hell to break loose. Two recent reports, when combined, paint a dark pathway for America in the coming weeks. The 79 Days Report by the Claremont Institute and the Texas Policy Foundation illuminates possible election legal battles on the horizon and how they might play out in the courts. The bottom line, the litigation will be time-consuming and combative. There's no fast-forward button to speed up the process. It concludes, on election night, the winner will not be known due to millions of uncounted mail-in ballots in 6 battleground states. Given there's no clear victor, intense court fights can be expected that could result in a struggle right up to the January 6th joint session of Congress, et cetera, right? And so it's basically saying that that they're not going to accept whoever wins, right? Which happened already in 2016, apparently, when Trump beat Hillary and people were saying, not my president. And maybe I was just less aware of it then, but it didn't really feel to me like there was as many riots and as many, violent demonstrations. Maybe that's just another word for a riot. But I remember my mom saying, Trump could become Hitler. He's already talking about putting immigrants in concentration camps and blah, blah, blah. And at the time, this is 2016, I was 21, I think. And it was just like, Ma. It's like, Ma. like I'm from Boston, like, Ma. Yo, Ma, just chill out. Ma, it's the president of the United States. He's not going to become Hitler. And now people are saying the same thing, right? People are saying the same thing, only now they're saying it about both sides. It's like, if Trump wins, he's a dictator and he's going to do this and that. And he's dividing the nation. And if Biden wins, well, he's on the extreme, the radical left, and he's going to do all these other things and destroy the oil industry and whatnot. And it's just like Ma, like it's like the world does not hinge on who the next president of the United States of America it becomes. And I watched this video, Jimmy Rex. I had him on the podcast a few episodes ago. Jimmy Rex, he made a video. When the pandemic started, he made a video that was like, "Don't wear a mask," right? And the first 30 seconds of it, it seems like he's saying, "Don't wear a mask," like for the pandemic. And then the twist of the video, if you get past your triggered feelings of like, he's saying not to wear a mask, then it's like, stop wearing a mask and be yourself. He's not talking about surgical masks or any kind of like COVID mask. He's saying, don't pretend that you're somebody that you're not, right? And so it was a great video, I thought, and it was very like, man, this is a very useful thing for people to hear. And he just made another video where he's saying, this election, you have two choices. And I'm not talking about who you vote for. And he says, this election, you get to decide if you start taking ownership for your life or if you continue to play the victim role. And it's just amazing, man. Like, especially in today's, I hate the word climate, but especially in today's climate, a lot of entrepreneurs are unsure of like how to talk about the things that are going on without like damaging their business. And Jimmy Rex is like, nah, man, I'm just going to talk about what I want to talk about. He doesn't answer to anyone. And it's so true. Like, to go back to my mom saying the Hitler thing, the quote that Jimmy uses is from Viktor Frankl, who was in a concentration camp in Nazi Germany. And it's basically, you can take everything you want from me, but you can't take my will to live, or something like that, or my I think, yeah, my will to live. And so, you know even if you think that the world is in any shape or form comparable to the Second World War, there are so many people that went through that still decided not to play the victim, right? Because if you play the victim, this is another thing he says, and I think this is like a Tony Robbins quote, is like, you can validate your victim mentality very easily, but it doesn't serve you in any way. And that's so true, man. Like, there have been so many times where I feel like I'm a victim to my work conditions, whether that's at this current job or at past jobs, whether that's big or small, right? Like, when one of the AGMs at my last job called one of my coworkers I would say the word normally, but I'm not going to because it's a no cursing episode, the homophobic slur for the F word. I was like, well, this should not be okay. And why am I being, I shouldn't have to be in a job that has put these conditions on me, and why are these people not, why don't these people realize what they're doing, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, man, I could play the victim and very easily validate, like, all right, well, this shouldn't be happening to me. And it's like, where does that get me? It just makes me feel bad because A, it is happening to me, and B, I put myself in that situation, and C, I'm not getting myself out of that situation. And so if instead of saying that, I say, oh, wow, this is a very uncomfortable thing, I'm going to take action. I'm going to feel, all right, this is uncomfortable. The reason I get to say this is an uncomfortable thing is because I allow myself to feel the uncomfortable. And so once I feel it, it's like, okay, then what do I do about it? Instead of complaining about it and finding all the reasons why this shouldn't be, and claiming that it's wrong or that it's right or whatever, it's like, okay, this is uncomfortable. I don't like this. I can leave. I can say something about it. I can try to resolve it. I can express how I feel. And if none of those things fit, like if you express how you feel, right? Because a lot of people are expressing their dislike of Trump or Biden. Both sides are expressing dislike, or about the situation, or about Black Lives Matter. There's so many things you can express your feelings, but if that doesn't fix your situation, then try something else. Try maybe to actually feel your feelings instead of just to express them. And okay, I don't like that. From where I stand, and this is me taking on the role of someone else, right? And it could be any of the things I just mentioned, whether that's Black Lives Matter, whether that's I hate Trump, whether that's I hate Biden, whether that's I hate the US, or whether that's the US is racist, right? Whatever you want to choose as your narrative for what's going on right now, if you express your feelings about it and it doesn't do anything, then what can you do about it? Okay, well, the US is racist. All right, then I can go live somewhere else, or I can test my hypothesis. Is this coming from, if you confirm it and yes, the US is racist, you find out the information and it proves that the US is a racist country, then by staying here, you're basically making the decision that you want to live in a racist country. Now, contrary to that, which is the harder thing to do, and most people won't do it, is, okay, why do I think that the US is racist? Why do I think that Trump is a bigot? Why do I think that Sleepy Joe is going to ruin the country? Why do I think that Black Lives Matter? Or not that Black Lives Matter, but why do I think that there is systemic racism, or that all of these things, right? And it's like just taking the, let's take the US is racist for just as an example. Okay, why do I think that the US is racist? Maybe I heard it on the news. All right, so if that's the case, is the news a reliable source of information? Your first inclination might be to say yes, but that's a life lie. And so the exercise you're doing is like being honest with yourself. It's like, okay, all right, let's forget about is the news source honest and reliable thing. Like, okay, someone else told me that the US is racist. Okay, maybe I need to test that hypothesis and see, are my friends racist? Number one. Are my coworkers racist? Number two. Are my family members racist? Number three. Are the people that I walk by and that I see on a day-to-day basis racist? Are the people that I interact with at restaurants and grocery stores, are they racist? Take the people that are in your community, in your actual physical presence, and test that. Is where I live racist? But most people won't do that. Most people just want to believe what they believe, and they want to see the world a certain way. I was having this conversation with one of my childhood friends, and she's very, she lives in Mexico, and she's very outspoken, and she has a lot of family trauma, especially with her dad, and which I won't get into, but we were having a conversation about the critical race theory, and I just asked her, what is your opinion on Trump signing the executive order for abolishing critical race theory? Because I had heard from other people that it was a good thing. And so I wanted somebody who I know despises Trump. I wanted to see the opposite opinion, just to gauge both sides. And so she was saying, and for context, she has never been inside of the US. She's never stepped foot in the country that she is about to make a broad statement about. She said, well, the US is racist, and critical race theory wants to abolish that. And so by abolishing critical race theory, you're saying you are racist. And, we just started talking about like poverty and places in the US that are suffering a lot. And I said, friend, where are you getting your information from? And she said, I read the news. And I said, oh yeah, I live here. So don't tell me that you know what is going on in my country more than somebody who lives here, just because you read it on the news. And then she had the audacity, dude. It's like the first dude of the episode, I think. Then she had the audacity, man, to say, well, but you live a sheltered life and you don't know what poverty is. And I said, oh, really? Oh, I don't know what poverty is. Maybe I haven't experienced real poverty firsthand, even though I am below the poverty line. Uh, but let's just forget about that. Let's just forget the fact that I'm below the poverty line as far as income goes. Um, when I moved into my new apartment, maybe the second week that I was here, I was alone. I was at the apartment alone, and I hear a knock at the door, and I open the door, and I see a young boy, maybe 6 years old, maybe no more than 7 years old, holding a jar, or sorry, not even a jar, a big Ziploc bag that was like almost all white because it was so old. And his father standing behind him, and the kid started to shake. The kid started to tremble because he was so nervous. And he couldn't get a word out. And so his father stepped up and he said, "Hey, my kid wants to go to soccer practice really badly, wants to join the soccer team really badly, but we can't afford it. And so we're just going around the neighborhood seeing if people would like to donate so that my son can go to soccer practice." And I told my friend this story, and she said, "That's not poverty." And, almost said it, that's not poverty. That's not poverty. Okay. I really wanted to say the F word right there, man. That isn't poverty. Okay. Well, what about the society of homeless people that lives a block and a half from where I live? Intense. And, what about those people? I didn't say that because I wasn't thinking on my feet, but that's not poverty, man. And at that point, I just said, I want to end this conversation, friend, because what you just did is called gaslighting, and I'm not going to put up with it. I'm not going to allow you to gaslight me. And I was friendly about it. I said, that it hurts me to hear what you're doing, and I would encourage you to look up the word gaslighting, because it's not something you want to do, especially not over politics, over anything, right? But like, especially not over politics, man. Um, and our friendship has changed since then. We still talk and we're still friendly, but there's, when you witness somebody be overcome by their traumas and then do something like gaslight you, not knowing that that's what they're doing, I can empathize, which is why I tried to explain and sort of walk her through it instead of just reacting myself. Um, but at the end of the day, it does, it does affect trust, and it does affect um, how much you want to really talk about those things with that person. So in a way, I guess it helps it helps me to avoid those topics, because I probably will never talk about politics with her again. Um, and but it's my own fault, because when I asked her for her opinion, she then asked me for mine, and I said, I don't need to talk about mine. I just wanted to hear yours so that I could be more informed. And she insisted, and like a fool, I believed she genuinely wanted to hear what I had to say, not just that she wanted to get triggered so that she could then fight me and so that then she could distract herself from her own problems and emotions, right? But so let me take a sip of water. And so yeah, man. Hey, I'm doing well so far. No F words and very few dudes. I really miss Chris D'Elia's podcast and his Instagram. You know, every now and then I'll go back and just like the guy was bringing so much joy to social media. He was like doing social media better than anyone I know, man. What else? What else is new? I caught up with another friend recently who was somebody that I met at my improv theater. I have something in my eye. And it was man, like it really, these are the kinds of conversations I wish we were all having instead of the politics conversations. So I wrote an article that was called Risks You Run When You Talk About Shame, right? And published it, shared it on social media. She read it and she commented on my thing, and she said, I'm dealing with some of my own trauma. Then it's very helpful to read you sharing your truth. And I said, I'm glad that it's helping. You're an amazing person, blah blah blah. If you ever want to chat, I'm around. And so then, we message privately and we agree to grab coffee. And man, like we talked for 3.5 hours, and I won't get into the specific details of her trauma because I've already said enough. I've already given you enough details for you to find out who this person is, which it was a mistake. Because I wanted to talk about the details, but oh man. But so we had a really long conversation, and it was, we were she shared with me how she got to this point, and I shared with her how I went from the last time she saw me to now. And we both learned a lot from each other. Like, again, I can't get into the stuff that she talked about because that's her truth. But she wanted, someone to bounce off. I asked her, why aren't you tackling your trauma a little bit more head on? And she said, well, I'm busy with this work thing, and I just know that if I can get to X, Y, or Z, then I'll be able to deal with my trauma. And I said, okay, what are the rewards for doing the work thing? And she said, my finances will improve, and that's pretty much it. And then I said, what are the rewards for dealing with your trauma? And she said that I get to live an authentic life, and that I can find love again, and all these other things. And I said, so is it worth it to you to sacrifice those things for finances? And you know, it's nothing she doesn't already know, but I think it just helps people when you hear it in person. You hear yourself come to the conclusion almost. Um, because I could see the wheels turning in her head when I said, "Okay, so what's the cost of um, of not dealing with the trauma?" And she started to say, "Finding love and all these things." And it was like, you know, we just don't get there if we think about it on our own all the time, because when we ask ourselves like, all right, but if I don't do this work thing, then it's not like I'll be fine, I just won't have all this money. It's like, no, um I'm gonna go broke, or I'm gonna like lose my apartment. It's all these extreme thoughts that basically are your ego trying to say like, hey, yeah, this is more worth you dealing with your trauma, because if you deal with your trauma, I have to deal with change, and I don't want to do that. So um and and yeah, man, it's just, it feels more like there's more substance to those conversations, you know, when people decide to talk about their inner workings and their trauma, instead of like, you know, the president is a bigot, or the president is doing this or whatever. It's like, I don't want to know about, I can learn about all those things from other people. I want to learn about you. I want to learn about you, and I don't want, um you know, I want you to learn about you too. You know, I want us to each learn about each other when we talk to each other, not just like, you know, yeah. um and so one of the things that I learned, which I'm still sort of wrapping my head around, was I told her that, she asked me, this is probably my favorite thing that she asked me. She said, so what are you doing to be more, uh I said, she said, what are you doing to teach yourself that you are enough, or to feel like you are enough, and to be more compassionate with yourself? And I said, okay, well, what am I doing? Um, and one of the things that I got to was, I've I used to, you know, anytime I had a meal, I would automatically just pop something on my phone, on my computer, a video, you know, and just all of a sudden I'm eating, but I'm disconnected from what I'm eating. And I'm also kind of disconnected from what I'm watching, because I'm doing another thing while I'm watching it. So I'm not fully engaging in either one of the things that I'm doing. And, and, uh, and so I'm trying to not watch anything when I eat. And she said, you know, funny story. When I tried that too a while ago, and the first time that I did it, I sat down and I said, "All right, I'm not going to watch anything." I served my meal, and as soon as I sat down and took the first bite, I started crying. And I said, "Oh wow, what was that about?" And she said, "I realized that I had been watching things, or she said she would do work while she was eating. And she said, I realized that I was distracting myself while I was eating, because I was really devastated that I no longer have family meals, you know." And it clicked for me like, oh, you know, I always say that I do feel a little bit more isolated than I feel maybe most people. And you know, what is it about, why can't I just eat? And that really clicked for me. I'm still sort of wrapping my head around it because I haven't necessarily burst into tears, but why is it so hard for me to just eat and to not do anything else while I eat? And I think that to some extent, the same is true for me. Like, when you're at school and you're eating lunch, you're sitting at like a picnic table with like 8 friends and you're all laughing and you get to like focus on your food while you're hearing your friends laugh and while you're hearing, oh, somebody teases you and then you tease somebody. And it's just this really like nice communal vibe to when you're eating. And at home, I would always, there was a time where we had family meals, maybe from the ages of like, from when I can remember up until like 9 or 10, dude. But my dad wasn't there, right? Because he wasn't a part of the family anymore. He was living somewhere else, and as in like a different house. And so it was like my sister, my brother, my mom, and I, and maybe my dad would stop by every now and then. But I just remember that like my sister would be looking at her reflection in the china cabinet that was across the table from her. My mom would be asking my brother and me, like, how was your day at school? And we would just be like, oh, it was fine. And she would be like, why just fine? Like, why don't you want to talk about it? And we'd just be like, because I don't, like, like we didn't want to, like, it wasn't a comfortable family meal. It wasn't like a loving sort of like everyone got to express ideas and feelings, and there was none of that. It was very much like, I just want to finish my meal so I can get out of here and go kick a ball around and get away from you people. And as I grew older, when I lived with just my dad and my stepmom, I would serve food onto my plate and then take it into my own room, and just sit in front of the TV and watch a soccer game. As I was texting like 10 other people about the soccer game. And, so it was always like, there was always something to remind me that I wasn't alone, right? Even though I was, and I did feel very alone. And it just extends. It's like it's this thing you start doing as a child to cope and to survive, that 10, 15, 20 years later, you can very easily not realize you're still doing and why you started doing in the first place. And so it's hard to even know where to start, right? Like, what are my coping mechanisms? And it's like, well, what are the things that you're doing because you don't want to be with yourself and be in silence? That's a great place to start. And for me, it was watching, consuming, right? And I've been doing like a lot better, man. I would say over the last 2 weeks, I've had maybe, what's that? 7, 14, 28. I don't really have all meals at home. Let's just say that that's like 20 meals over the last 2 weeks. I would say out of those 20, I've watched something 4 or 5 times out of those 20, so as opposed to what was before 100% of the time, I'm now down to like a 25%, And when I watch something, I still I have this little 30-second to 60-second meditation just before, and it feels so good, and it kind of feels uncomfortable too, which makes it feel even better because like, oh, this is challenging to me, isn't it? because it's almost like, I remember one of the Thanksgiving parties that I went to with one of my ex-girlfriends whose family was religious. They did grace before the meal, right? And I remember that I was judging everybody. I didn't close my eyes, and I was looking around like, these people, they believe in what? And now I'm sitting at the at the counter eating my breakfast or eating my dinner, and I'm sitting there like this, and I'm just holding space for 30 seconds, 60 seconds. And I've even had the thought, right? I get my meat from Butcher Box, and I've even had the thought sometimes of like, thank you for this food. Thank you for this food, and thank you for this meal. I know it sounds like kind of cliche. Maybe it sounds cringy to you. I don't know, man, but it feels good to do. It's just let me take a step back and let me slow down a little bit before I just shove this into my mouth. Um, you know, and and when I don't watch stuff, and I just eat in silence, I have all kinds of thoughts that I don't usually have, and those are sometimes more entertaining than whatever I could be watching on the internet. Um, and so yeah, I was meeting with this old friend of mine was really like a reminder that I am doing work, or that I am doing the work, and also that if it's up to me to gauge whether or not I'm doing the work, I'm always going to fall short, because I am the hardest person on myself. I'm my own harshest critic, right? And so at times I'll hear about, like, you know, oh, people think that they're doing the work, but really they're just like lying to themselves or whatever. And because I'm my own harshest critic, I'll think to myself, like, maybe that's what I'm doing. Maybe I'm not really doing the work. Um, but that, like, having that thought, and asking yourself that question is an indication that you are doing the work, right? Because if you were just like, yeah, man, fucking, ah, I almost had it. I almost had it, dude. I almost had a full 60 minutes. Son of a gun. Son of a gun. Ah, man, I blew it. I blew it, I blew it. I blew it. All right, let me start over. Nah, right. Imagine if I just like went through this whole podcast again just because I said the F word once. Whatever. It's fine. Life isn't perfect. Um, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, that yeah, if you just have that thought of like, yeah, man, I'm hitting on all cylinders, like I'm doing the work, and it's like, well, then maybe, how much of that is your ego? Um, but yeah, and also just hearing my friends say, like, I remember the last time I saw you that, I knew there was something there. I knew something wasn't right. And and it's like, yeah, man, you see me today, you don't think that. And not that that should be, the marker for progress, but I don't think that. And back then I did. Back then I was like, oh, I'm lying. Oh, what do I say? How do I act? What do I feel? Like, and now it's just like, what do you feel? What do you feel in your gut? Just go with that. Just go with what you feel in your gut. And I don't doubt myself as much. I don't um yeah, I don't know. It was just a really good sort of reminder also. Just like this late 30s, early 40s woman who wants to deal with her trauma is coming to me to discuss this, and I'm 25. Like if I wasn't doing any kind of work, then why would that be happening? You know, it's no, why would that be happening? That's not. It wouldn't. And so that in a way is like the it just shows you it's like you can't hide that from yourself, you know. And so I guess my takeaway from that for you is if you're doing the work and you are asking yourself often, or not necessarily often, but just, every now and then, like, am I really doing the work? The odds are that you are, and that voice is your ego trying to put doubt and fear in your head and your psyche so that you'll stop doing the work. Because remember, man, your ego wants everything but change. And doing the work is the definition of doing the work should just be change. And so your ego is going to do everything that it can to prevent you from that, and asking yourself like, maybe I'm just faking it. That's not you, that's your ego controls your thoughts. So with that, I'm going to end the almost no cursing episode. And yeah, I feel like I didn't laugh or make as many jokes as I normally do. And maybe that's just a product of not cursing as much. So if you enjoyed that, let me know in the comments, or hit the like button. And if you didn't, hit the dislike button and leave a mean comment about it. Tell me how much of a piece of S I am because I didn't say anything funny this time around. And so, yeah, thank you for listening to The Pupil's Life. If you want help writing and you need accountability, I have a newsletter that goes out once a week. I don't spam you, and you can always unsubscribe. It's called, or the way to sign up for that is sendfox.com/NIKOAGF. And that is all. Subscribe, do all the fun stuff, support, leave a rating on iTunes. I love you guys, and I will see you next week.